Hello everybody, we're here today from UCD Dublin's Belfield campus and we are delighted to have you meet with our panel to discuss the graduate taught and graduate research programs in our UCD College of Engineering and Architecture. Today, my name is Una, I'm the International Recruitment Manager for South and Southeast Asia, representing UCD International, and I ask my panel members to make introductions for who they speak to today.
My name is Rebecca Patterson and I'm International Marketing Manager for the College of Engineering and Architecture.
I'm Mohammed Awis, doing postdoc here in the School of Chemical and Bioprocess Engineering.
My name is Suma Kalinden and I look after recruitment from the Middle East with UCD International.
And I'm Cara Lusby and I'm the International Student Advisor for UCD.
To outline the session today, we will ask Rebecca to speak a little about the College of Engineering and Architecture as a way of overview to the programs and our offering. Then we'll invite Avish, who is a postdoctoral student in our School of Chemical and Bioprocess Engineering, to speak a little bit more about the student experience before we open the room for questions from the audience. So Rebecca, if you'd like to say a little something about the College of Engineering and Architecture, please.
Sure. The UCD College of Engineering and Architecture is one of the 7 colleges of UCD. We offer, within the college, we have 6 schools, which is the School of Architecture, the School of Biosystems Engineering, the School of Chemical and Bioprocess Engineering, the School of Civil, Structural and Environmental Engineering, the School of Electronics and Communications Engineering, and the School of Mechanical and Materials Engineering. So why choose UCD Engineering and why choose Ireland? First of all, size and history. We're the largest engineering college within Ireland, and UCD Engineering, we have been teaching engineering as long as the university has existed, and that's 150 years. And we've been teaching architecture. We celebrated our centenary 2 years ago, and that's in 2011. So over 100 years old, we've been offering architecture within UCD. Secondly, choice. We have 29 Thought Masters programs offered in the college. Thirdly, accreditation. We offer accreditation from the engineers. We're under the auspices of Engineers Ireland for chartered engineering status. We are recognised under the Washington Accord, which has essentially, it's an international accreditation or signatory from 19 different nationalities, which will recognise the chartered engineering status, so the students can travel after they get the chartered engineer status in Ireland. Some of these signatories include the US, the UK, Canada, Malaysia, Singapore, China, New Zealand, to name but a few. Also under accreditation, the chemical and bioprocess engineers are recognised by the IChemE, the Institute of Chemical Engineers within the UK. Normally, the IChemE only give chartered chemical engineer status to master's students, but it's a testament to the calibre of education within UCD and chemical engineering that they give this accreditation at bachelor level. So our bachelor students get IChemE status. Within the School of Architecture, we have what we would term the Triple Crown accreditation. We're recognised by the RIAI, which is the Royal Institute of Architects of Ireland, RIBA, which is the Royal Institute of British Architects, and also we are now getting NAB, which is the American accreditation of architects. So we're recognised worldwide as state-of-the-art accreditation in both engineering and architecture. Why else would you choose engineering or architecture in UCD? Firstly, out of our 12 2-year masters, we have 29 Thought Masters programs, 12 are 2-year, and 11 of those are ME programs, 2-year programs. That means that we offer an internship within that program. So the students have 1 thought semester, then there's 6 to 8 months of work experience within their ME, and that's a paid work experience. And they come back in their 2nd year and they finish their dissertation. So that is a paid work experience. It's usually on minimum wage, which is €8.65 an hour, which is it's reasonable, but some of the students would be paid more, on average around €10 an hour. So within their internship, they'll be earning around €8,000, which will go a long way to cover the fees of your second year. Also, within, I suppose, the final reason why you would choose UCD engineering is because of the employment opportunities. With the exception of architecture and civil engineering, the employment opportunities in Ireland are very, very good. First, we have the stay-back visa, which is a one-year stay-back visa for all non-EU students, and that is automatic. And secondly, we punch way above our weight in particular industries. In the IT industry, it's worth 20 billion to the Irish economy every year. We're known as the European Silicon Valley. We have 9 of the top 10 ICT companies located here and have either the European or world headquarters. So that would be Google, Twitter, Intel, Microsoft, SAP, Siebel, Cisco, LinkedIn, you name it. They have the European headquarters in Dublin, and we have 5,000 rolling vacancies in the ICT sector. Estimated to rise to 150,000 by the end of 2015. So there's a serious shortage of very, very, very highly qualified ICT specialists that we require in the country. Secondly, in the chemical industry and biopharma, it accounts for 50 billion, or 50% of the Irish GDP. And all of the major pharmaceutical manufacturers have the European headquarters, our world headquarters in Ireland as well. And we're the largest net exporter of pharmaceutical products in the world. Considering our population is only 4.5 million people, we punch way above our weight within the pharmaceutical and chemical engineering industry. Next, medical devices. We have 9 of the top 10 medical devices companies are also located in Ireland. They hire 25,000 people and it accounts for 7.2 billion of the Irish GDP. So it's also a very vibrant sector for students or graduates of mechanical engineering, bioengineering or biomedical engineering. And finally, food also accounts for 20 billion of the Irish GDP. So food engineering and sustainable energy and green technologies within our biosystems engineering also has excellent employment opportunities in Ireland.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Avish, we'd like very much to hear about your experience as being a student coming from India, I understand from the Delhi area, to the UCD College of Engineering and Architecture.
Yeah, actually I did my PhD in the School of Chemical and Bioprocess Engineering, and that was great. Before coming, I was just looking for some research work. I was working in industry there in India, in Bangalore, and I was working in biopharmaceutical industry. And before coming here, I was looking something great to work in the same field. I got few opportunities, but I chose University College Dublin because there's the same work and same kind of work what I was working there in India in industry, and I got the same environment here, and this environment is really very friendly and very good, and I got good scholarship here. And after that, I joined as a postdoc here, and I'm working as a postdoc, and I love really UCD and environment and Ireland, so that's why I'm here.
That's great. Thank you so much, Avish. Okay, as time is moving on, perhaps what I might do is invite some questions from our audience. And I have a question here that perhaps Carol might help us with. It's an Indian student actually near Mumbai asking when should I apply for the visa?
Well, normally the visa people say that it will take 8 weeks to process a visa, but realistically speaking, it can take longer than that at busy periods. So if you've already been given an offer, I would suggest that you start the process of applying for your visa immediately.
Perfect, thank you. And a student from the US is asking about making the payment for fees. When does this need to be attended to?
Again, for US students are non-visa required students. So their regulations from an immigration point of view are slightly different than for the visa required students. For a non-visa required student, they can pay their fees by the date specified on the UCD website, which is currently the 8th of September. Now, it depends again on the course you're doing, because some courses at undergraduate level, they will ask you to pay a deposit in advance of this. So really you have to follow the rules as given to you by the school that you're going into, first of all. Secondly, if you are using financial aid, US financial aid, you will not be able to pay your fees until you arrive over here, because you have to sign over the money at that point. So it varies really depending on what course you're going into and what method you're using to pay your fees.
Perfect, thank you. I have a question here regarding the internships that you spoke about, Rebecca. A student is asking whether they're available for all students taking the 2-year ME program.
Yes, they're available for all students on the 2-year only, not the 1 year. So as I said, after the first semester is in class, and the second semester you start your internship. Within the first semester we will be reviewing your CV and setting up your interviews, and you will interview in the first semester to commence in January of your second semester of first year, and you will work straight through the summer. So you'll go from January to usually around August, and you're back in university again by September of the following year.
Fantastic. We're seeing lots of questions now, so thank you again for everybody joining us today. Susan, perhaps you might help us with a query from a Saudi student who is asking whether the university will help to find the accommodation.
We do have on-campus accommodation. We are limited at this point of the year. Usually the accommodation fills up quite quickly. I would invite you to check onto our website and email to see what the possibilities are. You will find off-campus accommodation, and UCD has reference to sites that you can look to visit, which will help you to see what suitable accommodation is nearby campus and the price range and the varying price ranges for that. We don't have a specific office within the UCD International that will be able to advise on, I suppose, the types of different styles of accommodation available in Dublin, but we'll be able to point you in the right direction should there not be accommodation on campus.
Perfect. This might be more a question for Avish. I have a student who is coming to do a master's program here, but asking what the research opportunities are like. So getting a PhD following their master's.
Well, if they are doing master, and after that there are lots of opportunity for the PhD here, because they have lots of funding here in UCD in all the departments, mainly like working in bioprocess engineering. They have lots of funding, and there are lots of PhD opportunities, and they can go to industry as well, like if they are coming from India or any other parts of, so they have 1 year work visa after that, so they can work in industry as well.
Fantastic. I have a question here from Mohammed. Mohammed is saying that he is an international student from India and will be studying the MSc Sustainable Energy and Green Technologies at UCD. What is the exact duration of the course? What is the scope of this field in Ireland now?
The exact duration of that program is 12 months, so it's not an academic year, it's a full 12-month program. So the student will study from September until May on their academic program, and they will do their research dissertation over the end summer months. So it'll go from September to September in total. With regards to the employment opportunities in sustainable energy and green technologies, Ireland would have the highest European Union quota to be on the renewable grid by 2020, which means that and if we don't meet that quota, we're going to have very severe economic penalties. So with regards to wind energy, wave energy, and general renewables, it's a very high strategic focus of the Irish government, and we are leading the way within the European Union. So as a result, the employment opportunities in this area are very substantive, and I urge the student or the applicants to go online and just do your own research, and you'll see for yourself that it is a very, very growing and vibrant area within Ireland.
Could I add another little piece to that? As part of the immigration process, if a student has completed a master's degree, they can avail of a scheme called the third level graduate scheme. And this would allow you to stay on in Ireland after you've received your examination results, your satisfactory examination results. And you can stay for a year in Ireland on the same visa as you've already had as a student, and it gives you an opportunity to look around for work during that period.
Perfect, thank you, Carol. And that actually lends nicely to another question from a student from Jakarta who are coming to do a Master's in Food Engineering and asking about the opportunities to work during their studies, how many hours they can work, and whether it's something that would be advised during their studies.
Okay. Well, the rule states that if a person is coming to do a full degree course, they're allowed to work 20 hours per week during term time and up to 40 hours per week during holiday periods. Now, it isn't whether you should be working 20 hours is another issue altogether, and it's something that you should discuss with your program directors, because it isn't really recommended that somebody would work up to 20 hours because they need to put most of their effort into their studies. I should also say that from an immigration point of view, while they do allow you to work 20 hours and 40 hours in holiday periods, they do expect you, when you're applying for a visa, to be able to provide evidence of sufficient funds to support yourself while you're over here and to pay your tuition fees. So it isn't expected that you would be depending on that money that you got from part-time work to actually fund you while you're over here on a course.
Can I add to that, Carl? I would say that the College of Engineering and Architecture actively dissuades students from working part-time during term. There's a reason why we're in the top 1% of world universities under the QS rankings, and the education, particularly at master's level, is extremely difficult. For every hour in class, we would expect the students to have 2 hours of study. So we'd be expecting at least 60 hours per week of dedicated time to your studies. And we would really discourage, because we do not want to see any failures or any students struggling, because when you come to a new country, you have enough to contend with assimilating. We want to make sure that you succeed and you do well, and then you can utilise your stay back visa thereafter.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd agree with that, and I'd recommend that as well, because I also think that if people are coming here in the expectation of earning money and that they need that money for their living expenses, first of all, our economy is not what it was, and there are not that many part-time jobs available. That's the first thing. But secondly, I suppose, and more importantly, you do need to concentrate on your studies, because that's the reason you came here, with the intention of getting a good degree, and that should be paramount.
Perfect. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Rebecca. Another specific question, this time from Premchandran. The School of Chemical and Bioprocess Engineering has a tie-up with NIBRT. Is it possible to carry out the final year project there, or is it compulsory to do it in the university?
It's usually compulsory to do it within the university.
Yeah.
We do have, obviously, because NIBRT is on campus and it's an exceptional facility, we do have very close links with NIBRT, but usually the students would do their project within the university itself.
Perfect, thank you. This time a question from Isabel in the US. Now, do you know how most US universities, semester-based, not quarters, translate the 5 ECTS credits into US semester credits? So I'm opening this to the floor, but this may be something that we may need to take away to our registry department. Have we an answer from the floor?
Yeah, we need to follow up on
Perfect.
that.
Isabel will follow up by email and also with the College Week Live status. Another question that I have here is regarding the living costs. Just based on the conversation we just had about working in Ireland, how much can a student expect for a 1-year taught master's, 12 months here in Dublin? How much should they allow for the living cost?
It's a difficult thing, because everybody has a different idea of how well or how badly they should live. But I suppose, realistically speaking, you're talking about 400 or 500 for accommodation, and it can be more sometimes in some of the residences, for example, on campus. And you would need to talk about at least another 500. So I suppose you should have around 1,000 per month, €1,000 per month, I would say, and that's not including your tuition, obviously. for living expenses.
Perfect, thank you. And again, I suppose at this juncture I might suggest that if people haven't done so already, we have quite a lot of information now on our website, www.ucd.ie/international, and there we have a section which is about living in Dublin, and we have some information on the cost of living and the cost of living calculator. Next now to a student who has a question about when they will get their student card when they arrive on campus.
Well, usually, if a student is staying in residences, for example, they will get the student card is called a U card, and it's used for a number of facilities in campus, including getting into your actual apartment. So immediately you arrive, the accommodation is available for moving into on Monday the 2nd of September. So if you're there on Monday the 2nd, you'll get your card immediately. For those who are coming in during the week and are maybe staying off campus, there will be facilities. There's going to be a central area where you will be able to get your student card during that week.
Fantastic, but again, there will be lots of information from the university to you in the coming weeks. So as we near September, we urge people to keep an eye on the email address that they would have offered the university, but also on their UCD Connect email that will be made available to them shortly. I have a question here, perhaps Susan, this might be one for you. It's a Kuwaiti student who is asking how available is opportunities to meet with other international students when they arrive, and is there many international students in the UCD College of Engineering and Architecture?
Okay, well, the first week, I think it's the 3rd of September, we have orientation week. So we'd advise all international and all students to be there for that week. During that week, there'll be various induction sessions, so you'll meet with the wider, I suppose, international cohort that you'll be involved with, and you'll also have maybe program-specific or school-specific events running. It is a good week to, I suppose, assimilate what you're going to be studying, get your timetable, get to know your cohort in your school and class, but also you'll be part of the wider group of either new students or continuing students within the university. And during that week, there's a lot of social activities which will allow you to meet both domestic students or students from your own country. We do have over, I think, students from 122 different countries, so there's quite a large amount of, I suppose, different cultures on campus. There's a lot of societies that have been set up by different students, so you have maybe an opportunity to join some of those. And we also have within UCD International, we have a global lounge, which is, I suppose, a living room from students that are away from home, and they can either come down and meet with Irish students, American students, students from their own country, and there'll be a number of social events that are there for you to engage, and perhaps you want to hold a social event yourself. So we've had some students in the past that have had national days for students from their own country. So there is a lot that happens on campus both during that week and carried throughout the rest of term, so that you constantly have an opportunity to try and engage. Within the College of Engineering, Rebecca?
Within the College of Engineering and Architecture, the number of international students actually rises exponentially as you go up the levels. So at bachelor level, we don't have many non-EU students. We'll have less than 20 of the whole cohort of 300 students coming in per annum. At master's level, we will have an estimated 80 non-EU students out of around 350 students. So as you can see, it rises. And then at PhD level and postdoctorate level, there are a larger number of non-EU students as you rise up the levels.
Fantastic, thank you, Rebecca. I have a question here from the Jiangsu province in China. And the student says they're glad to be a postgraduate student, applied and holding conditional offer to electronic and computer engineering. Her question is, when can I get the final confirmed offer or get the final information on my application?
It depends on the condition, if it was for English language or for your final university results. If you have now submitted all of your documentation, there are more clearing sessions being under process this week to clear all the conditionals and all the backlog of awaiting decision students. So you should have an answer by Friday or Monday at the very latest.
Can I actually just clarify a question with you as well, Rebecca? Is there a deadline for students within engineering to submit an IELTS exam by?
Well, I suppose it's dependent upon the nationality and upon whether you need a visa or not. And if you are a visa requiring student, realistically, the IELTS or the English language proficiency must be in time to get your visa within as soon as possible, really, within the next week by the latest. Yeah.
Perfect. And perhaps I can add a second question of my own. If there are still maybe friends or contacts that are looking to make an application, is new applications being considered by the college?
It's the same answer really in many ways. The applications for some programs will shut because they have reached capacity, and some will remain open. Because the Irish students have a tendency to wait until their final results to apply, and they have just received them within the last few weeks. So some programs will stay open until very late in the season, but it's entirely dependent on the visa processing time at this stage. So for a non-EU student, I would say the next week or so really would be the end of the season in order to have enough time to apply for your visa.
Perfect, thank you. Now a question from Varsha. Will UCD help me with finding a job after I complete my studies?
No, not as such. Having said that, we do have a careers office who will help you a lot with gaining information, and in some cases, depending on what your degree is, they will have employers coming in on campus. They will also give you a lot of information around how to prepare your CV, how to prepare for interviews, etc. So in that sense they will, but it isn't that they couldn't guarantee that they will be able to get a job for every student who is going through. There's a lot of assistance there in the careers office.
We also have a careers fair in October for engineering and science students. So there'll be estimated 80 companies coming on campus this October, specifically to recruit our engineering graduates. So we urge particularly the non-EU students to be involved and come and just check out the careers fair for themselves.
Perfect. So again, thank you everybody for all of your questions. Keep them coming, because this is a great opportunity to speak with the panel today, to ask maybe some questions that you've been wondering for some time now. We have a question here from Mohammed. He asked a question a little bit earlier, and he says, can we start part-time jobs as soon as we join the university, or only after the first semester? And then secondly, is it safe to stay in bed and breakfast once we arrive in Dublin until we find a permanent place to live?
Well, if you were lucky enough to get a part-time job, and if you didn't have such a course load that you shouldn't really be doing a part-time job, yes, you could start in the first semester. There isn't, once you've got your GNIB card, that's the Garda National Immigration Bureau card, which is issued to you after you get your UCD card, and as you have to register and become resident in Ireland for a year. Then you can look for a job, but again, be very careful about what you do, because you don't want to damage your work in relation to your course. And the second thing is staying in a bed and breakfasts are completely safe to stay in. It is a good idea, if you haven't got accommodation already sourced, that you might come maybe 2 weeks in advance anyway of your program beginning, so that you give yourself a little bit of time. You can also stay in hostels that are quite safe as well. And again, you can, if you go onto the website and look at the residences website, you will see that there is an off-campus assistance office there, and they'll help you a lot with information about accommodation. Okay.
Perfect, thank you. A question I'm sure that every student would like to know is, what do I need to bring with me, and what is the weather like? What can I expect when I arrive?
Well, you know, the weather, they say about Ireland that the weather, you get 4 seasons in one day. So what we always recommend is that students wear layers of clothing. So that you start with a t-shirt, and you could have a shirt, and you could have a sweater over that, and if the weather got nice, you can take the sweater off, and if it gets really cold, you can put a jacket on. The main thing is as well that you have Get a waterproof jacket. If you don't buy it at home, buy one here when you come here. And a hat is also good, because it does get quite cold in November, December, etc., and it can be very windy. So if you have all of those things, plus a pair of gloves, you'll be able to look out for yourself. Some of the Indian students have remarked previously that they like the weather in Ireland because they could walk all over the place without feeling too hot. And they just learned, I suppose, to deal with the fact that we do have a lot of cold weather and wet weather during the middle of the winter.
And can I just add, just practically, just a reminder, obviously, to bring any documentation that you do need through. So any copies of offer letters or anything in relation to your insurance or everything. It's always good to just make sure you have copies of that on arrival.
Yeah, at the airport, because sometimes you'll be asked to show some of these things and sometimes you won't. You can't tell from one official of immigration to the next what they'll ask for, so have it in your hand luggage.
Perfect. And Avish, how about you? How have you found the Irish weather?
Oh, it's for me, it's really very good. Because, I came from the hot weather and it's here very nice, so I found this very good.
Perfect, wonderful. I have a question here now from a student, Varsha again, who has applied for the Master of Architecture Urban Design course and is asking what would be the extra expenses that they would have to bear for the studies, and if there's any other stationery or presentation materials involved with the coursework.
The architecture programs in general are very studio oriented. So as a result of that, there will be the additional studio, your drawing, the stuff you would need to perform within your studio classes. So all your drawing and paper, but a lot of that is supplied by UCD as well. They will give you a full list when you arrive. With regards to your theory classes, we don't encourage that you buy all of the textbooks on your reading list, because we have an excellent library specifically dedicated to the architecture students right beside the architecture department. And also the lecturers have a tendency to go and reference different books all the time. So what I would advise students is to attend class and take notes, because what the professor or the lecturer says in notes is what that occurs on the papers at the end of the year. So it won't be from one textbook, it will be from a wide array of knowledge that they have imparted to you. So your class notes are by far the best thing to really pass your exams from. So yeah, it's not that onerous, the additional money you would need, just the materials you need for your studios.
Perfect, thank you. I have a question here from a US student who is asking who does she contact to find out about the financial aid process?
It's one of my colleagues in UCD International, and her name is Kate O'Hanlon, and you can email her at kate.o'hanlon, OHANLON @ucd.ie, and you'll also, I think, find it on our UCD website.
Perfect. And I suppose in keeping with the financial aid query, we have another question here in from a student who is asking whether it's still possible to secure scholarships.
I mean, what kind of scholarships are you talking about? I know we have scholarships through that Kate deals with as well. I think the date is up for all. The deadline is up for those. Yeah.
Has passed for this year, unfortunately. Yeah. So through the university, there's no scholarships that I'm aware of. There's still
at college level, we will still provide bursaries or small scholarships if the student is of high enough caliber.
Perfect, thank you. A question here now regarding sports clubs and societies, and asking whether UCD has a hockey club.
Yes, we do. We have a very big sporting fraternity, and there's quite a lot of very good hockey players that come into college every year, so yes, that would certainly be catered for. The week of the 16th of September is called Freshers Week, and during that week students are given an opportunity to join a whole series of clubs and societies. of all different sorts. So that it's a great week of entertainment and also great opportunities to join whatever you want to join.
Perfect. Moving slightly away from the student experience and a broader question again, and it's something that Rebecca touched on at the earlier part of the session. What is the ranking of the university and the engineering school?
We're ranked, the university itself is ranked 130 in the world in the QS ranking, which is actually in the top 1% of world universities. The engineering by subject is usually in the top 1 or 2 tiers in the QS rankings.
Perfect, thank you. Another student here from India has been asking about the visa processing times. They've asked whether it is 4, 5 or more weeks to process the visa.
Well, it can be more than that. It can be 8 weeks. So, and it could be more sometimes. Yeah.
The last few years, we've been very lucky to see a very quick turnaround in the visa office in New Delhi, which was 2 to 3 weeks. But they have seen a huge increase in applications coming through from India, and as a result, the visa processing time has slowed down quite considerably. So I would say, genuinely, you would expect around 4 to 5 weeks.
Perfect, thank you. So hopefully the noise from outside hasn't affected our audience. We are showcasing the beautiful Irish weather today. So as we said, 4 seasons in one day. Today it is summer in Ireland, so we're glad you can join us. Another question here from Prem. Is it possible to get on-campus job like research assistant in the university?
Sometimes when people come in to do, I don't know what Prem is intending doing, a PhD, for example, they will often act as a tutor within the school they're in, but there aren't a huge amount of jobs available on campus, so one couldn't rely on that.
Perfect. This is similar to the question which Rebecca has just answered to us. I am applying for a bank loan and bank people asking about the recognition of UCD. Could you please tell me, is UCD recognised with which government organisation?
I suppose it does fall under our Higher Education Authority. We're one of the 7 universities in Ireland, so we are accredited by the National Universities Institute and also the Higher Education Authority. So we are, I suppose, recognised by the Irish government. We're recognised internationally, and our qualifications kind of are accredited by the ECTS system. So that's recognised both in Europe and in the States. I don't know if there's anything else that I want to add.
Yeah, in Indian terminology, we would be categorised as a state university.
Perfect. And perhaps to add to that, that oftentimes I know when applying for a bank loan that there can be a specific letter that is necessary. In that instance, I would be very happy for students to contact myself directly, and my email is una.condron, CONDRON @ucd.ie. So I have some review to the applications coming in from outside of Europe, and I'd be happy to take questions directly on that also. A question here, again, very specific, so we're getting down to very specific questions now. What are the mobile network providers in Dublin, and will the university help us in providing the SIM card for an international student? So it's good to see that we're thinking of the practicalities now of arriving in Ireland.
Well, there are a number of mobile networks, and as it happens, we do have a system of, we'll have a desk at the airport when students are coming in on Monday the 2nd and Tuesday the 3rd and the Wednesday morning of September, and actually O2 are giving out free SIM cards so that people can immediately contact home to say that they've arrived safely. So they're one of the providers, O2. There's also Vodafone, there's also 3, and there's also Meteor, and there's a whole range of providers of mobile phones. Irish people love mobile phones because we like talking a lot. So yeah, there'll be no difficulty with you getting set up for a mobile phone once you arrive here and getting a SIM card.
Perfect. And maybe just to add in a similar vein is that the university, the campus is completely wireless. So if students have the laptop, they can Skype home, and the coverage is very good. So we see a lot of students using Skyping to stay in contact with their family and friends from home as well. I have a student who's asking who's the best person to contact if they have a specific question about the academic content of the program.
Firstly, I would urge you to look, if you go onto the Graduate Studies website, so that's ucd.ie/graduate studies, and you go into the course finder and put in your particular course title. That will bring up your course, and then under the course description tab, there's a link to the modular descriptions. So that link is very, very detailed in what are your optional subjects and what are your compulsory subjects, and how many credits there are for your dissertations, etc. Having said that, if you still have more additional academic questions, there is a contact on the Graduate Studies website that you can contact or email directly with those queries.
Fantastic, thank you, Rebecca. I'd like to welcome Rohan now to the conversation, and Rohan is asking if there is a delay in him submitting the visa, is it possible that if the visa takes about 8 weeks from India to arrive late to the class? What happens in the instance that there might be some delay in getting the visa?
Well, I usually say to students, if they think they're going to be delayed, that they should contact their school into which they're coming to find out how long they can be delayed, if you like. For example, if you didn't arrive the week of orientation, it mightn't be the worst thing to happen, albeit that we want everybody to be there for orientation. The week of teaching begins the 9th of September, so obviously that could cause a problem, but it very much depends on each particular course. So you need to just talk to the people there, and Rebecca might want to say something about that.
Yeah, Rohan, if that's Rohan Massey, it might be. We allow the students, I know you've already paid your fees, we allow the students to arrive 2 weeks late into the College of Engineering and Architecture. It's not ideal because I suppose our welcoming and orientation week is very important in order to help particularly non-EU students get settled correctly. Having said that, we do allow students arrive up to 2 weeks late into term.
Perfect, thank you. I have a question here from a German student who has asked that they've accepted the offer on the www.ucd.ie/apply on the online application, and asking what is their next steps.
Next step would be to pay the deposit in order to secure your place, because some programs now are reaching capacity. If the deposit of the €500 is not paid, your place or your seat is not secured. So the €500 deposit. And as a German or European Union citizen, you don't have any visa concerns. So you're more than welcome then just to email us directly with any of the further queries you may have, and you can wait to pay the full amount of your fees closer to the time of commencement of term. But please stay in touch with us with any additional queries you may have.
Perfect. A query following on from Sue's piece regarding orientation. It's just to clarify that the orientation week will begin officially on Tuesday the 3rd. So we have been recommending that students plan to arrive on Monday the 2nd of September. So we've had some queries about this, with classes beginning on Monday the 9th of September in the UCD College of Engineering and Architecture. So we're going to ask students to check out again the international website, and in the Coming to Ireland section we have a piece on orientation, so keep checking this for updates for September 2013. Okay, a question now about Dublin. Is it a safe place to live? Carol, perhaps you might take this.
Well, I think it's a safe place to live. Having said that, it is a city, and you do have to be careful. So you don't walk around with a few cameras hanging around your neck, or you don't leave your bag down. If you're in a restaurant, you don't sort of put your bag on a table, for example, and just leave it there. So I think you have to be careful, you have to be savvy because you are in a city. But in general, it's a very safe place, I would say, to live. So you just be a bit attentive to what you're doing, and hopefully there'll be no difficulties then.
The safe place actually. Like I'm non-EU and like from India, and it's very safe. For me, it's very safe.
Perfect, thank you. Now back to a student who's still waiting decision on their application. So they said they've met the online application but haven't heard back from UCD. What should I do?
I'm not sure what subject area within engineering and architecture you have applied for, but I do know, and I have said, that there are clearing sessions currently underway within the college. They have given guarantees that any outstanding applications will be cleared by the end of this week. What does happen is that an awful lot of our applications are incomplete, and that we do not have sufficient information in order to make a decision. So the English language certificate is not in place, or the final degree award or transcripts are not there, have not been translated, or there's very important information missing, particularly for the ME Engineering with Business. If you do not have a specific statement of purpose for that programme, your application will not be considered. So there are very specific requisites to make sure that every single document that we need to make the decision is in place. If that is in place, you should have an answer by the end of this week or beginning of next week at the absolute latest.
Perfect, thank you. A question now, is there a help desk if we arrive 2 or 3 days prior to the arrival date? For example, before September 2nd, what should a student do?
In the international, UCD International, which is located in the Gerard Manley Hopkins Centre, and which is also the downstairs in the main restaurant. There's a reception there. There's a global lounge there that you can sit in and relax in, so that you can come in there if you're early. Just remember, if you're coming on campus, if you're staying on campus, that the accommodation is not likely to be open until Monday the 2nd. So that's the day we're recommending people to come. But if you come earlier than that, certainly do come in and see us, and you can ask all sorts of questions to our reception area.
Perfect. Now a question, and it's one I see in the thread. How can I connect with other students who are starting in September 2013? This is actually a question that I might put you and answer myself. The International Office have a Facebook account which we have been inviting students to connect with other students. It's not always possible for us to share email addresses of students, so we have a number of different students from many different nationalities. As Susan said, we have over 5,000 international students in UCD from over 122 different countries, and a significant proportion of students in the Engineering and Architecture College. But it's about meeting the wider students across the university as well. So we'd invite everybody to access the Facebook channel, UCD International, and also check out maybe our Twitter feed, our website, and the UCD Global YouTube channel, just to get a feel for different things happening on campus at the moment. So I think the time now is nearing the end, and I have time for perhaps one more question. And as I look through, I see a question regarding the NNGC biopharmaceutical engineering, and just asking what is likely to be the class size. So this is again a very specific question. I'm not sure if we can take it from the panel today, but the size of the classes.
We pride ourselves in not having huge master's classes. It's not like an undergraduate qualification. A lot of time needs to be dedicated to the individual, particularly at project level and research level. So we would estimate on that particular program there will be around 15 students registered, 15 to 20.
Okay, fantastic, perfect. Okay, well, thank you very much to all the questions that came in today. We're delighted to have the opportunity to address all of your concerns. Following today's session, this will be available for you to access online, but we do invite you to stay in regular contact by email, both with the contacts within the program area, with Rebecca, with the International Office team, just in helping with any last considerations that you have before coming to Dublin in September. Just as I close out this session, I'd like to thank Carl, Susan, I'd like to thank Rebecca, and I'd like to thank Avesh for their time today. I follow from a point made by Rebecca earlier. Time now is a little tight as we look towards the September start. So as we hope that you will join us on campus for the 2nd, 3rd of September, we ask you to close out any last housekeeping issues to do with your application. So if you have an offer to UCD, we urge you to make the status accept. In that way, then you can progress should you require a visa with your visa application process. Again, how do I know if I need a visa to come to study in Ireland? We have information in the UCD International website in the section on coming to Ireland, which directs you to a website for the Department of Justice, which will clearly outline if you need a visa or not. Again, the visa turnaround times can differ significantly by country, so that's why we urge you to spend as much time as now possible to be in time for the September start. As an accepted student, you should also be looking to accommodation for September and looking to make your travel plans. Again, we do very much suggest that you contact other students through the international Facebook, because oftentimes this is a way to find housemates if you're sharing the off-campus accommodation, or if just you want to make friends before arriving on campus. So we thank you for your time today, and we'll have further information available online, and please do stay in contact. Thank you.
Thank you.